On today's episode, I interview Steve Graham from Site Plus Electrical Solutions in Brantford, Ontario. Now, Steve is a member of the $1 Million Tradie program and he's made some impressive changes to his business that will inspire you. Now, Steve is a humble, hardworking guy whose business had become a monster that was ready to eat him alive. Now, Steve's story has so many great learnings about how changing your mindset and your perspective on your business leads to better results. Now, you don't want to miss this episode if you're stuck working too hard in your business and you need to make a change to take control of your business and life.
Because we all feel undervalued. We're always told we're overpriced. The stress level was high, lots of long days, lots of hard work going into the business, and leads frustration because I'm missing great opportunities. You're putting out fires all the time. It feels like you're drinking from a fire hose. The chief cook and bottle washer doing everything, and it slows everything down. It's been a huge shift mentally and physically and emotionally. It's awesome. Like it's great. The hard work we've done, should be in our bank account, not in our customers. I'm worth this. I've got 32 years of experience in this trade. I know how to get done. You should pay me for that.
Alrighty, welcome to the Profitable Tradie podcast. Host here, Tony Fraser-Jones. Really excited about today's episode. I've ditched my co-host Phil Smith. He's off doing something else, and I'm interviewing a special guest. And they say that success leaves clues. So my guest today on the podcast is Steve Graham from Site Plus Electrical Solutions in Brantford, Ontario. Welcome, Steve. Good to have you here, buddy.
Thank you. Good to be on the show today.
Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to chatting today. I think this is going to be a really juicy episode and lots of learnings from your journey as well. And I was just going back through the notes when you joined the $1 Million Tradie program, and it made some interesting reading. Look, you had an established business. You'd been in business for a fair while, doing around, I think, 150K in monthly revenue. So you were set up, which was good, and you were making some money as well, which is obviously good. But the stress of keeping everything running was really wearing you down. Pretty much everything in the business revolved around you, and that made it really hard for you to make space in your life for you and your daughters. You've got three daughters and wife Denise, so it was really difficult to actually enjoy life, and business was just kind of taking over. I think the term you've used is a recovering workaholic.
Yes. I'm a recovering workaholic since I've joined the Profitable Tradie. It's been a pivotal decision for me, professionally and personally. The challenges faced with the business just impacted me, and yeah, there's just been a lot going on over the last few years trying to grow the business, and the business was always growing at a rapid pace, but hard to keep on top of things without the coaching from your team.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's just jump in and talk about why it was important for you to make changes and get help when you did. Why did you need to do that? And what were you looking to achieve?
The stress level was high in the sense that the days are long, lots of long days, lots of hard work going into the business, and leads frustration because I'm missing great opportunities to take on other jobs. Lots of opportunities were faced in front of me to quote more work, meet new customers, do more things. However, I was not able to achieve all of those at the same time because I was overwhelmed with the opportunities I thought were important, or trying to triage those opportunities. So it was very difficult to go back and filter out what was important. And it just seemed to me like everything was important. So that's what made the days so long. And now I can understand the importance of um, time management and the default calendar and things like that. We'll probably get into a little bit deeper.
It is hard when everything feels like a fire uh,
Yes.
that you have to manage. And I think it's actually hard to make decisions about what to prioritize because your brain doesn't actually work as you'd want it to.
Yes, absolutely. Like you said, you're putting out fires all the time. It feels like you're drinking from a fire hose all the time. And it's very overwhelming. But you seem like myself, I seem to get used to it for many years. It was just that was part of the job. To build a successful business is just keep putting in the time, have a hand on everything, just focus on the all the positives, right? And then that erases the negatives, or the negatives just don't, pop up. So you just kind of erase those. But yeah, drinking from a fire hose was how I explain it.
Yeah, and I think something you mentioned there, which I think happens for a lot of business owners, is you were busy, obviously making some progress, particularly from a financial perspective and revenue. But there were a lot of opportunities that were being missed because basically you had no capacity to deal with them, and so there was probably a lot of opportunity cost as well.
Yes, absolutely. I missed a lot of opportunities. They'll come back around. I believe, I'm a firm believer they'll come back around as we get um, more structure in place and a better balance within the business. Those opportunities will come probably in a better format anyway, um, and stronger. So I'm excited to see the future on that.
This busyness, this workaholism. How did that affect your experience of life and with your daughters and with Denise as well?
Well, I think everybody, is really used to it as well and accustomed to the hours that I put in, the long days, the amount of effort that goes into the business. Everybody's been accustomed to that and they support it very well. However, there is times that I miss different events, or will always work come first instead of family, and that's changed over the last year for sure. Um, we've been able to prioritize more family events, more family outings, things like that, and just more family time together. Whether it's with one or all four of them, it's been fantastic, and I've sort of mentally said to myself that we can change this and be able to put the business on hold for that hour or 2 hours of the day, whatever that looks like, to catch a basketball game or just whatever event that might look like for the girls, right? Or, time down at the lake skiing or doing something like that, right? We can put this on pause because everybody will wait. And it's hard to believe, but they will.
It's a massive shift, that isn't it? Maybe we'll dig into some of that mindset stuff as we go on, because I think that's something that's really impressed me about what you've been able to do. I'd just like to back up a little bit to where we were, a couple of years ago. Um, can you talk us through how the business looked and specifically what your role was when we started to work together? What were you doing in your role?
Being the owner operator of the business, I would be taking care of all the shop organization for the guys, making sure everybody's scheduled properly to get out on their jobs. I would purchase all the materials, make sure all the materials were ready to go. I would deliver materials to site for the guys to keep them, I would say, profitable, but keep them active and moving so they're not having to leave the sites to go to the supplier. So I was running materials around to different job sites, also doing all the quoting, getting all the invoicing ready for my accounting manager to take care of, to invoice that out. Also, like just shop maintenance, vehicle maintenance. I would take care of all the vehicle upkeep, other than the mechanical things that would go to the qualified mechanic. However, if the bumpers need to be painted on the van or that needed to be waxed or whatever, they'd be coming into my shop at night and I'd be doing that after hours, which I enjoyed to do. Everything I've mentioned, I really enjoy every aspect of it, but it just seems like the list keeps going on and on and on. Of course, the quoting part is one of the biggest things, and the invoicing. So I would always prioritize my quotes before I would prioritize my invoicing, because getting more work is better than getting paid for the work you've done. That was my mentality before, because, well, eventually we're going to get paid for what we did because they owe it to us. But if we don't have any work, we can't get paid. So I've always been a very firm believer in trying to get more work, and we'll get the invoicing done later. But, just that list of the chief cook and bottle washer doing everything becomes me as the funnel of the business and the bottleneck that, everything gets caught with me, and it slows everything down.
Yeah, it's very difficult to grow when that's the case, because there is a capacity constraint, and I think we see that a lot. Is that and it's almost hidden as well. You don't kind of realize it sometimes. I think was that your experience?
Absolutely. You don't realize it. And 2 years ago, we were up to 12 employees at one time, managing 12 people by myself, and just off the rails, right? And it was successful, but it was challenging, very challenging.
That's a good effort, man. 12 people plus running a business is full on,
Thank you.
but not sustainable.
No, definitely not.
So let's talk about how the business is now. What are the changes you've seen? What have you done?
We've implemented some structure, some policies, some procedures. Just recently, I've onboarded a new operations manager, which I'm really excited about. He's in his third week. Things are changing, which is for the good. Um, so right now we're implementing a lot of the policies and procedures, putting in some structure in place, as well as making sure safety training's up to date and that sort of thing, where previously we weren't able to stay on top of all of that at one time, which should be the priority. However, it does slip through the cracks, and you don't brush up on your safety training until a customer asks you, are you qualified or are you certified? And then you're like, we got to get that done. And then you're chasing your tail to get that finished up. So, you know, we're working hard on that right now, and it's been a game changer as well. Um, Mentally is a game changer for me. My mindset's changed. I just feel a little better, more than a little better, quite a bit better about how the business is going to start rolling out within the next 6 to 12 months, with having better structure in place for the guys, which is going to build better culture. And that's what really it comes down to, is trying to put the structure in place to keep the culture high. And I'm a real big fan of leading by example, and I need to show that within the culture as well, which I have done. But now having an operations manager to be able to lead as well, that's going to be a game changing future for us.
So when you're talking about structure for the listeners, what do you mean by structure?
Structure meaning, like, knowing what we expect, where we need to be financially to make good GP margins, be able to pay the guys good money to stay engaged within the business, make sure the customers are happy. Um, I think another big part of the structure too is your core values. You want to sort of show them off, and recently we've just sort of wanted to roll those out properly so that they're known, and we're going to start moving forward with keeping those posted on the wall within the shop, so guys kind of understand what the direction we want to go is.
Yeah, for sure. And what sort of policies and processes, etc., have you been working on?
So it's kind of funny. We've started with some really basic ones, like how to put garbage and cardboard in the garbage container, like in the garbage bin out back, because they would put full boxes of air in the garbage bin. So there's got to be a procedure and a policy and a purpose for doing something. Though that's just a silly one, but that's one.
It's not silly though, is it? Because
No,
what was happening before is, I imagine, and having seen similar things, is you'd go out there and the trash bin is full when it's not full, and so someone else, and probably you, has to break down all these boxes, which is yeah, exactly. So
that's
you're
me.
spending all this time breaking down boxes, which is a low value task, which is costing your business a lot of money. And until you explain very clearly what your expectations are and how you want it done, it doesn't get done. And so that applies to every area of the business. I think it's a great example actually, because it's something that should be simple, but it's very difficult if it's not a proper process.
That's right. And once the process is in place and there's a policy there written for it, then we can make sure the guys are trained on it, and then it's measurable. right? In your KPI or KPA. So that was one. To make a few others, there was van maintenance, cleanliness of the vans, bringing material back to the shop, like from a job site. Where is it supposed to go? Is it supposed to go, hiding in the back shelf somewhere so nobody can find it? Because that's what guys do. They hide, $100 dimmer switches that could be returned to the supplier unused, and or a old disconnect switch or something that could be returned, things like that. We set up some purposes, some policies and procedures for these type of items. um, Vacation time, sick days, all these, like, we went through a full list. I think there's 11 of them we implemented in total.
It's killer, that stuff, because it does make everyone clear on what's expected. It's out of your head, so you don't have to tell people all the time, and it actually helps the culture as well because things are clear and expectations are set. So I think that stuff is huge. Let's talk about the results then. So, what are the results from the changes that you've made to the business meant for you and your family and life in general?
Better profitability gives you a better mindset of, you can pay your bills easier, cash flows better. The hard work we've done, should be in our bank account, not in our customers. That's a key factor that I'm really cracking down on, right now, is trying to collect money and keep everybody on a shorter leash. Yeah, back to what it's made for the family, just being able to disconnect from the business for a few extra hours each day has been a real game changer for everybody. We've been able to, spend more time together, either at the cottage doing some water sports we really enjoy in the summertime, water skiing, barefoot water skiing, wake surfing, all that neat stuff behind boats. My girls are amazing on the water. It's great to watch. And also, we take vacations, throughout the year often, which has been great. We'll go away to a beach or to Disney, or we spend a lot of time in Florida when we can. So it's great. Been a game changer there, just to be able to disconnect for a day or two, or a few, like even a week. But it's hard to completely disconnect when you have a cell phone. And I'm hoping, if we ever have this conversation in a year from now, I'm going to be able to leave the cell phone at home when I go on those vacations.
Well, that's the next challenge.
That's the goal.
In fact, I'll maybe message Denise and tell her to hide it from you.
That's right.
And that might be the way to go. Um, Mate, you've made some great changes, and you've done well at a bunch of things. And I'd like to focus on a few of those that I think maybe have made a huge difference. So, and we can share some of the wisdom, the hard won lessons that you've had with the listeners. So, I do like what you've done with profitability and cash flow in the business. So maybe we'll dig into that a little bit. What have you done to improve and make the cash flow and the profitability more consistent? What are the key things that you've put in place?
I think right out of the gate, when I first started learning the profitable tradie program, was to start invoicing for what you're worth. That was a big mindset change too, was to understand your worth. Don't sell yourself short, because maybe you don't want to pay for that service or that price for that service, but you don't know the customer won't pay for that, right? They probably will, because it's a professional service that they're paying for. And we do great work. We do clean work. We really strive for customer satisfaction. And also, when we did join the PT program, we did up our rates. We did put our shop rate up a little bit more. So that helped. And then we went through as well and increased all of our material margins. So, across the board, before, we were running at like 35% GP on all items. Pretty much everything would have like a 30% or 35% GP on them, right? And then I went through and we made a price book, and we made a list of everything. For instance, like an item that would cost 20 cents, instead of putting 35% on that, we'd put 100% on that, because that item, whether it was a marette or a nut or a bolt or whatever it might be, for sure they're losing five when they invoice for two. So that's going to cover those losses. And just adding up those little items like that, I think, has been a bit of a game changer. And it's just a mindset change too, that you can charge more for those little items and nobody's ever going to see it.
The devil is in the details with profitability. There's no doubt about that. And you do hundreds of jobs a month often, and certainly thousands a year. And it's very important that the details, the attention to detail in every invoice, every job is what actually adds up. And so you have to be quite focused on that. So I think that's great work. What have you done in terms of looking at your reporting and job profitability, back costing, all that sort of stuff? Because I think there's some good lessons there too.
With all the job tasks that I've been working on over the last 6 years with the business, of course, there's never any time to back cost. We're always looking at tomorrow. We're always looking at what's like getting stuff done for today and tomorrow and next week. Yesterday's gone. We're not looking back at yesterday. And that's been, I know for sure, one of my biggest challenges with business forever has been never been able to back cost, never had the time to put aside to back cost. And in the last 12 months, we have been back costing jobs. I have been adamant about going backwards and looking at who worked on it, what it was quoted out at, what the material costs were, and see where it landed. And, it's been a game changer to know who's being productive and who's not as your trades guys, and also, how to quote the next job, how to make sure the next job is going to be profitable. If the last one was profitable, then we can quote it the same, or, maybe brush it up a little bit more, push that level up a little bit higher each time so that you can see where you're at. And then also, just recently, I've been outsourcing some of my estimating. So I have a couple of subcontracted estimators that I've been sending out my larger commercial construction jobs to for electrical work. And they've been estimating them and sending them back to me, which has been a game changer for me too. It's relieved days of work for me to put together a job. These guys will charge me say $500 to $700 US to price a $300,000 job, and it'll be very competitive and very detailed. And then I just put my numbers in. It takes me 3 4 hours to do my part of it, send it out, and I've been winning some jobs that way. And I've been winning experience that way too. If I don't win the job, I'm winning experience. And I'm just really changing the way I think about how to delegate jobs or how to offload them off my plate. And that's one of them. We can afford to spend $500 a couple times a month to have somebody quote jobs for us. That's a game changer.
That is enormous, and I think it can't be overestimated the power of reviewing your previous jobs. It's not only to see how that job went, and I think you highlighted, which tradespeople and technicians are working well, what type of work is good, what type of clients, because you'll find obviously some of the clients aren't so good. And if you just do an overall average at the end of the month in your P&L, you have no idea of the nuance of where the ups and downs are. Even if you can improve just the bottom 20% of jobs, which are going to be dragging your average down, it makes a massive difference to your overall profitability. So I think that's massive. And you can't price well if you don't back cost because you just have no feedback. Pricing is about feedback, isn't it, really? And hats off to you, man, as well for the outsourcing some estimating because, man, if you can't price it, you definitely can't win it.
That's
It's
right.
pretty simple.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, makes sense. And the estimator role is next on my hit list. Like I'd love to get an estimator in the near future for sure, because that's just going to help us grow even more.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about it in some of the trainings and the coaching sessions. There are steps in businesses, and getting an operations manager is a step. Frees up your time, and then you'll reach a certain level of revenue that you can hit with that. But you can't go further until you have an estimator because you literally can't price enough work to keep your existing team busy, let alone get enough to grow out your team to the next level. So I think that's pretty exciting, man. I can't wait to see how that looks. Let's just switch things up a bit, Steve. I'd love to talk about getting your time under control and being more effective with your time. So, what have you done differently here?
The biggest thing is the default calendar. I think learning that through the PT group, the default calendar was massive. Being able to segregate your time and stick to that is key. And I think, do I do it every week? No, I don't. And I should, but I do it often, very often, and I stick to the same routine. And what I learned in the early stages, because that's one of the early stage learnings that you guys provide is the default calendar, is how important that is. The cool part about it is once you learn how important it is, it does change your time. It does change your life because you put the more important things out front. And those are the more important things. You put those in place first. And, you know, I would go all day for many weeks, work weeks, with only eating one meal a day. Just go, go, go. There's no time to eat. And now, in the last 12 months, for sure, it's like I actually disconnect myself from the business and I go and have my lunch. And whether it's 20 minutes or 40 minutes, or maybe it's an hour and 20 minutes, it might change. But you know what? It's been a game changer for me, and it's helped with my mindset too, being able to disconnect. So, like that default calendar, sticking to that, for getting time back and working to a schedule or working to a calendar, um, and being able to put time aside for certain people during the week and put time aside for certain aspects of the business is huge. Being able to do business development for 2 hours twice a week, that's 4 hours. Being able to go on to the webinars, being able to do the Q&As, all that stuff, if you put that in your calendar and you stick to it, it really does change your way of thinking, and it does give you time back.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned the lunch thing, almost as a small thing. In fact, you've done that a few times in our chat. You've mentioned small things, like the rubbish and the lunch, but the lunch is huge because actually taking time to have lunch says that you're respecting yourself, you're putting yourself first, you're looking after your own needs as a person, as a business owner, as a leader. That has a huge impact on your ability to function at a high level. Time is a bit of a mind bend, like no one has enough time, and it's challenging, and it's all about priorities and stuff. So what have been the mindset shifts that you've made around your attitude to time that have helped here?
Well, the attitudes change just because there's only so much time during the day that we can live and work, right? So I try to balance now more livable time with the family or doing other things outside of work, and just sort of crunch the work time down. Instead of longer than 12-hour days, I try to get that down to 12 or less per day, and prioritize and be able to weed out sort of the distractions. And I think that's a big thing too, is some customers, some people that I'm associated with, they may get upset with me because I ran out of time to see them, or I didn't reply to that email on time or something like that. But I've learned to triage that sort of less important items and communicate with them that I just didn't get to there today because of these other reasons. And, I think they can understand it. And if they don't, well, then we have to come to an agreement. But if I'm a wanted person and everybody needs me, I can only do so many things, right? And what I've found too is I find, when my staff are calling me all the time for answers, sometimes you have to mute the phone and let them call two or three times, but then they have the answer by the time you talk to them later, because it's a way of training them to think for themselves.
Isn't that interesting? So there's a couple of massive, I guess, themes there. One is, you don't make more time; you just rearrange your priorities and put the most important ones at the top. And I think you're right. You actually have to be quite tough and be prepared to say, well, I just can't get to that. And like, I probably am going to maybe disappoint some people a little bit, whatever, but at least I'm not disappointing myself and my family and what's the most important to me. That's massive. And we tend to say yes to everyone. And when we do that, we say no to ourselves and the things that are important to us. So I think that's massive. And then that learned helplessness, I think that you mentioned with the team, it's very easy for us to pick up all the challenges that they have because we feel responsible. And I've struggled with that as well, actually. And probably some of the team here will laugh when they hear this as well. But I'm sort of a general in training here as well, is that if we make ourselves unavailable, it makes people actually take initiative and become problem solvers themselves. They realize that they can do it. So that's a massive shift, man.
As the business owner, I think we feel like we need to answer that call to help them through it, because the sooner we help them through that problem, it keeps the customer happy, it keeps the employee happy, everything's getting done efficiently. However, if we keep doing that, then nobody really thinks for themselves, and we're all always bailing everybody out. And those bailouts cost time that we don't realize until at the end of the day we're like, we didn't get anything done today. And then you go back on it and you go, well, that's why, because I had 7 different phone calls and I had to put out 7 different fires.
which really my tradespeople could have done because that's actually their job.
Correct.
That's actually their job is to do the work in the field.
That's right.
And I think what you're driving at there is it's a very short term approach because it actually costs us a lot in the long term to do that because it means we have to do it all the time and therefore we're in this cycle of kind of helplessness and being available, helplessness and being available. So I think there's some killer lessons there, and you know for listeners as well, it does require us to harden up a little bit and actually push out the responsibility to other people to protect our time. And I know, you know, mate, that the business was really literally revolving around you and that it was really stressful and overwhelming. So, what were the things that you actually did to stop the business revolving around you?
Well, I'm not sure we're there yet.
No, it's a journey, right?
It's a journey. I think right away is delegating, hiring some more people, delegating the tasks, making sure that other people can take on some of those jobs. I learned recently that if somebody can do a job 80% as good as you can, hand it over to them, let them do it. And unfortunately, I'm a very perfectionist. I like things to be perfect. And I've learned recently that progress outweighs perfection. It beats it every time. So if we can make progress and, over the last few years, really since COVID too, I think that's been my mindset shift too is progress. Like we got through this, we're going to keep going and it's, head down and just keep going.
Yeah, progress beats perfection. That's a brilliant line. And how have the systems and the processes helped with this as well? Because I think before, you know, that was all on you. Now you've got stuff out of your head. It's kind of like, you know, McDonaldizing the business to some extent.
That's correct.
How has
Yes.
that helped?
It's funny, I've used that analogy with my staff too. Everybody kind of goes, "Wow, that's right. That's good." But anyhow, it's working well. Not everybody has like eagerness and buy-in right away because there's always problems when structure gets implemented and when there's policies and people are like, well, you know, what's this all about? Like it wasn't there yesterday. Why is it here today? But anyway, we're getting through those hurdles. But the nice thing about it is once we get through that and everybody's playing on the same field, it makes it very fair to everybody within the business. And I think it makes it great for new people to be hired. Like it's sort of an attraction so that we can attract good talent, new people, new journeymen, new apprentices, that estimator role, an administrative role, like all these things. Once we have all this stuff in place, it's going to make, I think, a great attraction and a better place to work for everybody.
Yeah, that's something that's really underestimated. Great employees want a great place to work, and a great place to work was one that is well organized, that people can do their job and they know what is expected of them, and that they're working with people who are doing a good job as well. Because, you know, I think Phil said this before nothing wrecks a good employee faster than watching you tolerate a bad one. And without systems, it's very easy for people to not perform to expectations. And so when you're looking to hire new people, like you said, having good processes and systems is absolutely killer. And you can actually promote that in your job ads and your whole recruitment process. And you'll find that good people are like, wow, I've never seen anything like this. And it even comes into your hiring process, right? You know, if you've got a really structured hiring process, and I'm sure you've been through the 11-step process. That just really impresses people because they've never seen anything like that before. So how has your mindset had to shift around your role? I know that being a perfectionist, kind of like me, is tricky, but you've made some shifts there so that the business doesn't revolve around you. So what shifted there, mentally for you?
So the mental shift for me is just like delegating, getting other people to do some of my tasks so that I'm not the most needed person here, as well as hiring smart people with goal oriented mentality, I think is big as well, so that you can put some trust in them and they want to help grow the business and really focus on business growth and culture and all that stuff within the company. So I think that's been a big mindset change as well. And being able to let go, being able to let go of tasks, even the small ones that, I just, maybe don't love to do, but just been used to doing them forever. Let it go. And even the big tasks, let the big tasks go. Hire somebody to do them. Put somebody in that space, put pressure on somebody else that you're paying to do that job.
Yeah, and it's a great opportunity for them as well. And I love what you say about hiring A players because it's impossible to. I mean, you can't fake talent.
No,
The difference between an A player and a B player is huge. Like that hiring is just so important. I think we get good at hiring makes a huge difference in our business, and that definitely relates to culture as well, which I think something you've referenced. So, why is a great culture so important for you in the business?
I think great culture helps with like employee satisfaction, retention, productivity, performance, all of that stuff I think really helps. And then I think it also helps with like customer relationships. If you have good culture within your business, you're going to have good relationships with your customers. And I think that's really key too, right? Because your customers aren't going to shop around, they're not going to be price checking you. They're going to stick with what they like and what they trust. So I think like a lot of culture building that we've done previously is just uh, lead by example. I think it helps, but maybe it doesn't. But like if it's a rainy day out and I'm sending them out to do the job, but I'll come out and help, right? And just like things like that, like leading by example, or like, hey, not everybody here is going to sit in the office today and feet up on the desk and enjoy the warm weather. If there's a crappy day, we're all going to get this done together, kind of thing. Teamwork, right? We have some team building exercises that we do. We do some golf tournaments. We go out for different lunches and stuff like that, which we don't do enough of because we're always so busy. But um, I think, moving forward, what's going to help build culture too is the 20s. We haven't focused on any of that because I've been so busy. But the new ops manager, he's going to take that role on and start running through the 20s with the guys weekly. We do have weekly shop meetings to go through different items, safety items, and things like that. But a lot of things get overlooked previously to now. So moving forward, I think we're going to be in a lot better shape, and the culture is just going to get a little richer.
I think a lot of people are worried when they put managers in to manage their team that it will lead to, the things not be done the same and the culture not being the same. And look, if you don't have the right person, then that can definitely happen. But when you have the right person, my experience is that the reverse happens because now you've got someone who is dedicated to actually managing and looking after your team. Whereas before, you were kind of doing that, but really you were doing everything else, and you weren't able to give them the love, the time, and the attention that they need and that they deserve. And so that's an important thing to bear in mind. And so it can be quite an opportunity in that area. And I think as you move forward with your business, you'll really notice that, and the culture will grow and develop rather than the other way around, which is a fear that people have as they put management and other leadership in the business.
I think you nailed that, Tony. Because yeah, having the new guy in place, he's building this, he's putting this stuff into place, and he's got these plans. And it seems like there is a few guys on board with it, and there's a few guys on board that are a little bit skeptical of what's going to change and what's going to happen. And I think if everybody just gives it some time, this guy's going to do a way better job than I'll ever do in that role, because that's his role.
Yeah, they have time, and
That's
time
right.
is the challenge. So let's jump in and talk about the operations manager because I know it's been an interesting journey. for you with this. So, how did you know it was time to get an operations manager to help you? Apart from the fact that we told you, but
Yeah, no kidding.
like a little while ago. I'm just saying.
Yes, yes. Well, just being overwhelmed with all the day-to-day operations, we needed to, make some room. And the room for growth would never come if I keep doing what I'm doing. To be able to, grow the business, and the complexity of managing the larger projects just becomes a real challenge. So being able to offload that operation side of things is going to be key. Process implementation, like implementing different processes, is going to be awesome moving forward. Now, moving back a few months, I was looking for this role. I was looking for this operations manager for 8 months. We had this job posted since February, and finally found the right candidate in September. So it was a crazy event of trying to get to here, and I interviewed many different people and went down many different paths to try to find the right talent. And in the end, finally found the right path, which I had hired an agency to find me one, spent the money, and this lady did a fantastic job weeding out a bunch of people, and getting me a few good ones to look at. And I think I found the right guy.
Let's talk about the tasks and activities that your operations manager will do for you.
Labor utilization is key, getting the right guys doing the right jobs and making sure they're done efficiently. Um, Another item that we're working on to keep things in track is less reworks, less callbacks. We want to minimize those right down to zero if we can. That's our goal. And of course, trying to get GP margins where they need to be on every job. So that's his real key focuses on that. Other than that, he's going to be working on workflow management, coordination of the team, safety training, performance monitoring. He's going to take care of the 20s with the guys, go through all the KPIs and KPAs. That sort of thing I think is going to be just massive, being able to communicate with the guys on a one-to-one level. I actually had an operations manager in place a couple of years ago. He really wasn't an operations manager. He was more of a purchaser, more of a logistics person. So I recognized that he just wasn't the right person for that seat. Unfortunately, we had to part ways, and it left me hanging for 12 months, kind of thing. It left me hanging and running that role myself again. However, I think we've got the right guy in the right seat now. Finding that right person with leadership is key. Luckily for me, the guy I found, he is an electrician as well. So he's got that respect, I guess, if you will, from the guys, which I think is a really good start to buy in, with having a person with trade experience in the trade that we're in gives good respect right out of the gate for the ops manager, and then having the ops manager being able to lead that role, previously with his other companies that he had worked for before. He's got great experience with leadership and management, which is key, right?
And so I know this is a recent hire this time round. What are you doing to ensure that the position is a success?
So we're working through his KPAs and KPIs, and there's some non-negotiables like we talked about before. So we're working through those to start with, to make sure that each week, as he grows with the business, he's doing what he needs to do instead of getting sidelined or sidetracked and not actually taking on the operations role.
For listeners, this is really important because when you hire people to manage the business, the natural feeling is like, how am I going to keep control of things and how am I going to make sure things don't go off track? And KPIs, key performance indicators, which are like, things we measure them on, like, for example, labor utilization, where is it sitting? Is it 95%? Is that the target or is whatever? And are they hitting that weekly? So you can see weekly where they're at. And so things can't go off track too far. And also, a good person loves to have those figures because that lets them know that they're winning, and they love. I mean, winners love to be measured because they're like that fills their cup. They're like, yeah, I'm doing a good job, and also it allows you to give them feedback. So I think that'll make this, it'll make you get the most out of this role, which is killer. You have to put the effort into that measurement, don't you?
Definitely. And clear role definition is good too, right? Like to make sure they know what they're supposed to be doing and the support and resources as well, right? Like what they need to put that into place. And right now, my guy's working on structures, right? Getting things in place and working on things to get done with the safety training and making sure that the vans are outfitted properly with the right tools for the guys for that labor utilization. So he's getting all the foundations put into place in the first couple of weeks here. A couple hours each day he's spending on these small items that are, here again, I say small items, but they're actually the foundation to keeping everybody productive and efficient. I think that's massive.
So, Steve, we've talked a little bit about mindset and attitudes, etc. So, what other mindset changes have you had to make on this journey?
I think, there's been some emotional mindset changes too. Take the emotion out of some of the aspects of the business with customers, with employees over the past years, especially with customers. I think that's been a key factor too, is you may have a great relationship with a customer, but they might be slow payers or nickel and dimers and they don't want, they're just a pain in the head, right?
Yep.
And you have to learn to weed them out properly, politely, however you want to look at it. But sometimes you outgrow your customers. And we've done that several times over the last few years, outgrown customers and just had to move on.
You got to free their future up and let them mess up someone else's business.
That's right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Steve, how important is getting outside help being to the success and the growth that you've had?
I think it's been massive. Stumbling across the profitable tradie, I think on Instagram or one of the socials like that was key. Seeing you on there talking about all of our problems that all of us tradies have, we all have the same issues. I think getting involved with the profitable trading program has been massive. It's been a huge shift mentally and physically and emotionally. It's awesome. Like it's great. When I say physically, we don't mean like in our body, we mean like physically in our bank accounts and physically in our time and all that stuff. It's just been awesome to see that added success. And the great part about the whole family here at Profitable Tradie is that we all have the same problems. We all can talk to each other about our issues, and maybe somebody's two steps behind me, but there's four people 4 steps ahead of me that I'm talking to that are guiding me in the right direction, and I can guide the people behind me in the right direction. And it's been massive. And just recently I've been a part of the boardroom too, which has been a pretty cool success.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. That. What have you valued most about the help you've received?
I think your team makes you feel good about the future and what you can do. And like I said before, we all have the same struggles and challenges within the program or even within the trades for that matter, or business owners. You don't have to be a tradesman. You can just be a business owner and have all these problems. I think just the mentorship is awesome. I think they do an awesome job at making you feel welcome and worth more than what you think you are physically and mentally, because we all feel undervalued. We're always told we're overpriced in everything that we do, so we always feel undervalued. And when you learn, I'm worth this, I've got 32 years of experience in this trade, I know how to get done. You should pay me for that, or you will pay me for that, right? It's like your business, right? Your business is coaching, and you're a great coach. For what reasons? these reasons, right? Because you've got the experience, you've got the right team, you hire the right people to inspire and coach people to that next level, and they put you in the right spot to succeed. And every winner wants to win. Let's push this to the next level. And
Yeah.
that's where I come from, is just we want to get to the next level.
I think that's cool. And like I see our role is to help winners win quicker
That's right.
by painting the path ahead. Steve, this has been an awesome pod, man, and I really appreciate the insights you've given us, the learnings, the vulnerability about where you've been at, and I guess the thing that excites me is you've done a lot of great groundwork here, and I think you'll find over the next 12 to 18 months, well, I know you'll find over the next 12 to 18 months, you'll actually see even more results. Uh, and it kind of is like a bit of an exponential curve as you get ops in place and look at an estimator as well. You'll see some massive improvements as well. So that's exciting, man. I think buckle up. You're going to have a great time. It's been a pleasure, man.
Thank you.
Congratulations on being part of a select group of savvy business owners who are taking their businesses to the next level. And to help you on your journey, don't forget to check out our show notes for a copy of our free book, The Profitable Tradie, and other valuable resources. Thanks for being a part of this special group, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Profitable Tradie podcast.